welcome to the Jeff Buller Show. Today I have with me Sonciary Perez. Now, Sonciary is done multiple startups, and she is a co-founder of Koala.io. Her depth of knowledge about the state of customer success today and what is needed to revolutionise the field is matched by her passion for a startup and software as a service growth everywhere. She's a well-known growth mentor in Boston and is a leading figure in customer experience with almost 2 decades of experience in the area. So I'm looking to find out a little bit more about what Sonciary does, and also find out some of the where the ideas came from, because I'm intrigued by these beautiful creative ideas that turn up in the human mind and then they're turned into and manifested as creative products, businesses, and then find out what she learned and then discover what she can share with us about that journey, the journey she's had along the way. So welcome to the show, Sonciary. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. A pleasure to be here.
Now, I'm always intrigued by, because when I introduce and meet lovely people like yourself, very smart people, I get the pleasure, I'm grateful for able to interview these smart, creative people all around the world. And I'm fascinated by where do the ideas come from. And so you started Promoboxx, which before you got into Koala. And so Promoboxx is what I know is a technology startup connecting brands with independent retailers to increase awareness of where to buy goods locally. Now, you started this about 10 years ago, I believe. So where did the idea for that business come from?
Yeah, Promoboxx was such an amazing, fun journey. I'm a marketer by trade, and before Promoboxx had been working with local independent retailers as a part of a marketing co-op. So basically, I was responsible for trying to understand the brands that they sold and how could we work with those brands in order to provide marketing materials ad hoc so that the local independent retailers could sell more of the manufacturing brand's products. And that process was fraught. It was expensive for local retailers. The imagery didn't make sense to their business all the time. At some point, when they would get to order the brochures for the items, it would be not timely, or the offer didn't make sense, or there was a variety of reasons why these campaigns, traditional marketing campaigns, didn't really jump off the page or weren't hugely successful. And so we had the idea, my co-founders, could we create a social digital experience for manufacturing brands and their local independent retailers that was more timely and that could provide offering of where to buy in store locally, and facilitate this connection. So what I loved about Promoboxx is that I felt like we were supporting the local economy and ecosystem and the dreams of these entrepreneurs, but also the manufacturing brands paid for Promoboxx outright to sponsor marketing materials for their local independent retailers. So it felt like a great initiative. We felt like we were doing good in the world. And funny enough, a lot of entrepreneurship, I feel like obviously hard work and then a lot of luck. Our very first campaign that we officially launched with Promoboxx was with Chevrolet for their Super Bowl campaign in 2012, and it changed our lives.
Right. So in what way did it change your lives, and also obviously the retailer?
Sure. So for us, for those of us, there were 4 of us at the time, co-founders. We were bootstrapped for several years, didn't pay ourselves a dime, put everything back into the business.
Yep.
And when we were able to sign Chevrolet, as you can imagine, a lot of starting a new company is trying to appear maybe a little bit larger than you are and trying to borrow credibility because you're new and untested. And so since we were able to lock down Chevrolet for such a large campaign, no one really questioned our credibility moving forward because it was such a humongous opportunity for us. And if we were vetted by GM and for the Super Bowl, it should be good enough for almost anyone else. So that was life-changing for us in the same way that getting into Techstars was life-changing. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that later. and how it changed local independent retailers that were part of the Promoboxx ecosystem is that they were getting these world-class digital marketing campaigns essentially for free. If you think about it, retailers are the most important customer of the manufacturing brand, not necessarily consumers. So the idea of having a manufacturing brand provide sponsored marketing for those retailers, arguably their largest customer, is such an impactful thing for them to do. If they can help you sell more of their products, then everyone wins. So it was such an amazing experience to build and scale that team, specifically the customer success services and support teams for over a decade. And I learned so much, and I'm still good friends with my co-founders.
So you mentioned the term Techstars. So obviously you bootstrapped it, didn't pay yourselves. And so where did the money come from while you're doing this? Because that's a question a lot of wannabe entrepreneurs do, and existing entrepreneurs. So you still got to put food on the table, look after the family. So where did the money come from while you were bootstrapping, not paying yourself for years?
Sure. I think there's, special moments in your life where you can take on much of the risk associated with entrepreneurship, especially first-time entrepreneurship. It's a little bit different for those that are at their, second, third, or fourth rodeo. But I consulted. My co-founders also consulted. We freelanced, we consulted, and we were able to pay our own bills while we put everything into the business. And we actually gave ourselves a 2-year timeline where we were just going to focus on the business, know that some of our time was going to be carved off for consulting and freelancing, and decided we would check in with each other. We checked in often actually on the subject, but officially would check in about the 2-year mark and decide, is this something that we still want to hack at? Do we think this could be an actual business? And it just so happened that around that mark, we got into Techstars and we signed Chevrolet, and were able to start to not only put money into the business, but also pay ourselves a very small salary. So that's also something to consider if you're looking at entrepreneurship. You're not looking at a market rate that you're going to be earning. It's really the upside of creating something amazing and beautiful that could be valued at something much larger than it starts at. That's the dream.
So it's dreaming about growing it to something significant and makes a big difference.
Sure. Yeah. And I think entrepreneurs or founders or, solopreneurs or, we're all motivated by different things. And so it's important to find what's your risk tolerance and what motivates you, what do you want to bring as your offering that helps you uniquely understand what part of this process or journey is worth it to you, because it definitely is a crazy roller coaster ride of ups and downs.
It is. Now, Techstars is like an accelerator VC fund, isn't it? So basically it's like an incubator that sort of brings in the best minds and then helps them, and then helps with funding as well, or find funding. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct. We got into Techstars, my co-founders and I, and well, funny enough, the short story is that we actually didn't get into Techstars. We were rejected at the last round. And it just goes to show, always be kind to people. We were rejected, and instead of maybe getting upset or throwing a fit or trying to contest or prove that they were wrong, and we were going to prove them wrong, of course we wanted to do all of those things, we instead saw them in person at a local Boston networking event, thanked them for their time, acknowledged the fact that it must have been a really difficult decision. They see so many companies, and it was as a result of us humbling ourselves and thanking them and not necessarily going at it from an aggressive standpoint that they said, you know what, we think that your idea, at the time Promoboxx was marketing itself under a slightly different idea. We're not sure if your idea has a lot of merit or could be a big company, but we think that you as founders have something special. And then they invited us last minute to join the Boston Techstars Spring 2011 class, and being able to connect to a network in Boston that we historically did not have access to. We felt a little bit like outsiders looking in. We hadn't started a company before. We could not have done it without Techstars. And so I love being able to be a continued member of that community. Once Techstars, always Techstars. And it's been wonderful to keep in touch with them and pay it forward to other companies going through the program today.
Yeah, so Techstars, why did they reject you? Is it because they, I think you sort of mentioned it in passing, but
Yeah.
and obviously you learnt from that. And that's the thing is we're all going to have problems and challenges, but do we learn from them?
Mm-hmm.
So why did they knock you back at the last minute? And they took you in because they saw something special with you guys, the founders. So why did they knock you back on the product concept? It sounds like to me.
Sure. Yeah, they did. So when we first started marketing Promoboxx before we pivoted and signed Chevrolet, or I want to say evolved and signed Chevrolet, we were a social media marketing engine for small businesses. Basically, any small business could sign up for a Promoboxx and build like scratch ticket campaigns or spin the wheel campaigns and then add them to Facebook as a tab, if anyone remembers those days, and then promote them to their customer base or their fan base. And founders, or I should say small businesses, would pay about $100 a pop, $100 per campaign. And the feedback from Techstars was just, that's a great idea, but we don't see the market as being that large or the opportunity being that large. And frankly, they, arguably were correct. Given the fact that there were some other players like Wildfire at the time. I'm not sure if anyone listening remembers the space, but at the time, Wildfire was a competitor of ours that had just taken off and had a direct partnership with Facebook, and we were a day late and a dollar short. So they did ding us on the product, they dinged us on the market opportunity, and they dinged us for being a little bit too late. But they feel like they saw something in our grit and our determination, and if we didn't figure out, or if we didn't have the idea just yet, they believed that we likely would find a good idea and that we would be the team that could execute on it. So they took a risk on us, and I'm really glad that they did.
Mm. It's interesting, isn't it? In terms of timing, is almost everything. I remember watching a TED presentation, and they looked at the 5 top factors, and timing was like 42% of the success factor alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that definitely, when I was younger and earlier on in my career, if you would have said that to me at the time, I would have poo-pooed it because I wanted to believe that so much was in my control. I needed to believe that so much was in my control because there's just, like I said, a lot of risk and a lot of unknowns with starting a company and living life in general, that I would sort of wave off that sentiment. Okay, sure, timing is everything, but I make my own luck. I force things to happen. I can control the narrative and ensure success. But the reality is that now, being a little bit of time later,
Yeah.
it really is. I mean, yes, of course, it's grit, it's knowledge, it's the community that surrounds you, but a lot of it is timing and a lot of it is just blind, being there, right place, right time, and that's luck.
Yeah, I totally agree. And on reflecting for me as well, looking at my business history, is that the best results have come from by stepping into a fast flowing river rather than having to swim against it. And um,
Mm.
flow versus force. In other words, when I've looked back to, I've tried to force things to happen, it's turned in typically into a disaster. As in, okay, this is what's happening in the marketplace, and it's and you're right when especially when you're very young and you say like I can make it happen, but you're almost like fighting city hall really if you're trying to do that.
It's such a good point, and I think it's good to acknowledge the things that you can control and what you can't control. It
Mm.
can be very empowering to know this is what I can do and this is outside of what I can do, and to focus. And we talk a lot about focus as founders because you hardly have any time or any money or any resources. So you gotta focus or else it was just the nut will be too big to crack.
Mm. So let's move on to Koala. So you've got
Mm.
Promoboxx and it's still running today, and you wanted to move on to a new project, which excited you. So Quala is about custom success stories. In other words, taking a lot of data and bubbling up the most important data for the custom success
Mm.
marriage to actually make good decisions from that data. So where did the idea for Koala come from?
Oh my goodness, it's so fun to think about this and share, because while I was building the services, support and success teams at Promoboxx, I started to become very aware of the importance of the relationship we had with our manufacturing brand customers and with our retailers, and how the qualitative narrative and interactions that we had with these customers it was such a powerful stream of intelligence that, if harnessed correctly, could help us understand what features should we be focused on, which one should we be promoting, which one should we be building, how should we evolve our sales narrative based on the vernacular of our customers and prospects, and what does strategic decision making on pricing look like based on customer and prospect feedback. But the problem was, I felt like while our CSMs, our customer success managers, were these, deep oceans of intelligence and insights, I could not get at that unless I was speaking to them directly one-on-one. And I felt like a lot of times when I was speaking to them, or even myself with customers, that I was getting, in some cases, an opinion that might be 100% correct, but not necessarily data-backed solutions or data-backed advice. And I thought about this problem a lot, the intersection of qualitative data and relationships we have with customers, and what does that mean for how we think about our businesses and how we grow our businesses? And essentially decided to, once I left Promoboxx and transitioned out, I thought, I think there's something here. I started speaking with product leaders, data science leaders, customer success leaders, and asking them, where does their qualitative information live today? And if they could streamline that and essentially query those insights and that intelligence and that information, what would that mean for how they would grow their businesses? And realized that, we had sort of stumbled upon something that was pretty impactful, and began to dream about what that could look like from a, technology offering perspective. And it's been great to be in customer success. Of course, I lead all of go-to-market efforts at Koala, so sales, customer success, support. But it's been fantastic to be in CS proper, working on tools for frontline teams. We're calling this idea that we call ourselves a frontline intelligence platform. And just really iron sharpens iron. Every day I learn from the leaders in our industry, because it's my job to have conversations with them every day. And it's been helpful for me, because I truly believe customers are our competitive edge.
So in other words, the idea came from observing a problem within Promoboxx.
Yeah. And so today, how it manifests for Koala is, I mentioned, we are the only frontline intelligence platform for specifically scaling B2B SaaS companies. And we streamline qualitative data from wherever our customers store it, whether it's chats, calls, notes, surveys, CRM, so they can answer questions like, which of our customers are talking about a certain competitor, or should we integrate with this potential partner, or which of our customers are poised to expand, so that they can then use that data to make strategic CX recommendations. They're backed by not just opinion, but solid data that they can visualize.
So in other words, you're taking a lot of data and trying to put into a more visual and simpler format, so you can actually make good decisions, rather than just be overwhelmed by a sea of data.
Right. A sea of qualitative data. And this data is very hard to mine. It feels like it's a lot of opinions. And I think what's the magic of what we're trying to do here at Koala, or our wedge, is that we're not just looking at survey data from customers or NPS data, Net Promoter Score data, and the comments associated with those scores. We're looking at the day-to-day interactions between those in the field, largely CSMs, and the customer. We're looking at the information that's going back and forth between not just one stakeholder that might answer a survey, but buyers, champions, day-to-day contacts, agencies, bringing all of that together across all customer bases and across all frontline agents in order to deliver on these insights. And it's a powerful streamline of intelligence for many businesses.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Some recent reading I had from Reid Hoffman book, he mentions that one of the things he mentioned was people will it's great to get data, but interesting thing is you can ask surveys, and that's interesting. He said, but people will tell you one thing, but what you've got to really watch is what they do, because and the other little gem I heard recently too was people start telling the truth once they start paying for your service, and that's so. But the thing I liked about Reid Hoffman's observation in his book was watching people's actions. In other words, what are they actually doing? What are their keystrokes? What are they doing as opposed to what they're telling you? Because it's two different things.
It's true. And you know, for those of us that are focused on the qualitative narrative, we also in Koala, we bring in usage data as well. So it's not, I know I talk about a lot about the narrative because that's our wedge in the market. We do also bring in behavior data or keystroke data into our platform that you can marry with the qualitative to get a better sense of customer health. But for us, we believe understanding customer health is art and science. It's not just how customers use the platform. I've had customers that have used at Promoboxx, used our platform up until the very day that they churned. If I was just looking at the data, the usage data, I would miss the fact that they were hugely frustrated by our pricing. And they were hugely frustrated by some key features that they had requested that we had not delivered on. Or vice versa, I might have happy ears and have the day-to-day contact saying that they love us and they're great, but they're not our buyer. Then they're not using our technology and they churn. So you need both together to truly understand where is the customer, what's the value they're experiencing from a usage perspective, and what's the value they're perceiving from a narrative perspective.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And it reminds me of the experience of the founders of Dropbox. So Dropbox started and they built this beautiful, what they thought beautiful, easy to use platform, built by engineers, right? Okay, which tech savvy. So they put out a promotion. No one signed up apparently. No one, zero. So what they did do is they pulled these customers into the room and actually sat next to them and going, show me how you use the platform. And what they discovered was not one of the customers could actually get in and use the platform. They failed 100%. So that was fascinating. It's like, okay, the user experience wasn't very good.
Gem. Yeah, I mean, of course, so many of us respect Dropbox for obvious reasons. I loved their story, their marketing story, because their founder essentially created a super lo-fi QuickTime video of him connecting sources to Dropbox and then just, you know, uploading files. And it was such a magic aha moment. We always talk about what's the product aha moment where people are like, I need this. But they had historically had a really hard time talking about their aha moment. The fact that it was easy, people almost don't believe it, or they're like, sure, people throw around the word easy very often. What does that actually mean? So instead, he created this super lo-fi QuickTime video and walked through the steps to illustrate how easy it was. And that video blew up and essentially helped power the first iteration of their first customer cohort. I love that story.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit to when you started, and you've gone to Techstars before with Promoboxx. So how did you go about getting funding for Quala?
Yes. So we are funded by Underscore VC, a Boston-based firm, a fantastic group of individuals. They believe in us. We believe in them. We appreciate the network that they have also plugged us into. And of course, I still leverage my Techstars network. So much like life, it's relationship-based. So we historically already had a good relationship with some of the team members there at Underscore. And it's really a testament to my co-founder, Jonathan Tushman, who is the technology behind Koala. Firms really do back founders. They back that founding team. And again, they saw something in the founding team and thought, whatever problem that you attempt to solve, we think that it could be an amazing problem worth solving because of some of the track record that Jonathan and I had. So it's great to be able to partner with them, and they've been good to us. We appreciate the partnership that we have and how they help us better understand our business and the opportunity. And we talk with them often. I can't recommend them enough to other tech founders that are looking for potential firms to partner with.
Yeah, it's great to have the right sort of partner on board, isn't it? And I think it's important too, and it's part of the discussion we've had with the Shuttle Rock over the years, which I've been part of, which is a startup, which is a 10-year startup again, out of New Zealand. And it's important to, and I've heard horror stories about partnerships where someone's come in, given money, and then the founder's basically been railroaded out of the business. But keeping the culture of the company, I think, is very, very important.
I agree. And thankfully we haven't had any of those experiences thus far, and don't intend to, but the firms that we have worked with are very pro founder and very much in support of us and the vision that we have for the company, and want to understand how do they come alongside us. They're also honest with us. They challenge us. They, in addition to sort of supporting and pumping us up as well.
Yeah. So, the other thing I wanted to ask you was, what are some of the biggest challenges you're sort of, as you're growing the company, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're experiencing or have experienced?
Sure. So, I think building any technology company or starting something from scratch, finding those early customers that believe in you, that are willing to take a risk, that are willing to try the technology without it necessarily being backed by any sexy logos thus far. It's a very special type of person, and finding those individuals can be difficult. So I would say you're going to hear a lot of no's. You have to fortify yourself emotionally and mentally for the fact that there are going to be a lot of people that are going to give you a false yes, or say that they like the idea or the opportunity, but not necessarily going to move on it. And then you're going to have people that are flat out going to share why they don't feel like the problem that you're solving is a worthy problem to be solving, or maybe they don't like the way you are going about it or don't agree with it. And then you're going to find a very, very small cohort of individuals that see the opportunity, that align with you in mission and vision, and have the actual autonomy and power to help align with you to be an early customer. So that's the first piece. Is we can talk about funding or how financials, economics work around it, but really it's getting those early customers, because you need those proof points and that credibility so that you can continue to build on that. And then a lot of us, I'm sure, I've talked about this fairly often on the podcast, but it's then a race against time. How do you focus in a way that you can use best speed to your advantage? You're not letting great get in the way of good, but you're also not delivering subpar trash that's not necessarily going to be well used by your customer base. And how are you racing against the clock, because you only have so much time, whether it's you raised a small pre-seed or a seed, and that's going to get you only so far. You're always thinking about the next steps. So it's that challenge of knowing that you're staring down the barrel, and what does that mean for how you focus, and what does that mean for how you develop a technology, which is again another reason why we find that this qualitative data is so important for some early stage younger companies, because again, their customers, their early believers, are so impactful to how they grow their business, and it's important to listen to them. So making sure that you stay on the front lines and continue to have these conversations can be the difference between us creating a viable, amazing company and us creating a company that maybe doesn't get to the stage that we hoped it would.
Yeah. The term that's tossed around also is minimal viable product, isn't it, to go to market, which is high quality enough. So has that been a challenge too, trying to actually launch something that's got enough features but not too many?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, product focus can be very difficult. You're pulled in so many different directions. So I think before we talk about minimal viable product, it's so important to talk about minimal viable segment, because your minimal viable segment is going to direct what the MVP looks like. And if you are trying to serve many different segments, then your minimal viable product could be in risk of being all over the place. And then again, we're losing focus. So I find it's very important to debutize, who are we going to first try to focus on. What does that person look like? What do they care about? What is their role? What are they focused on? And then developing something that's very specific to them. And once you're able to get those early wins, then you can decide, okay, how do we expand our minimal viable segment? And what does that mean for our product?
Yeah. So, because when you sit down and excuse me.
Bless you. Yeah.
So, challenge, you might say, well, I think I've got 5 different personas I need to actually target. So you're saying
exactly.
So you maybe say that you need to just focus on one initially.
Yes, I would, and we give a lot of recommendations, founders to other founders or investors to founders, and of course, at the end of the day, founders are in their seats for a reason. They know their business intricately. I believe very much in the gut sense of the founder. They know what path is likely the best path to take.
Yep.
With that being said, my offering definitely would be with the desire and need to focus, that if you are trying to solve the problems of many different segments too early, then that's going to wreak havoc on development resources in general. But it's not just how you develop your product, it's how you market and sell your product, because now you're creating or attempting to create a product that solves the needs of, let's say, even just 3 different user personas. Now you have to worry about, how do you market a website to 3 different user personas? And then how do you develop sales materials to 3 different types of personas? It might feel early on that you're widening your opportunities, and you're like, well, if we build something that's for so many people, then we have more sales opportunities. But the problem with that thinking, quite often, not all the time, is that these expanded personas have a lot more needs. And when you're just starting, you're not going to fill every single product gap that they need. So you might as well focus very clearly on one specific segment.
So I love that. In fact, you're talking about creating a minimal viable segment, not just a minimal viable product.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't claim the idea I know I heard it somewhere or read it somewhere. So I'm parroting or passing along my knowledge to pay it forward to anyone else. So I can't take credit.
So let's go back to a word you used before, speed. I totally agree with that, especially in a global world where people can copy your tech and also market the product as well globally. So I sort of see, I suppose, speed as being important in 2 areas. I'm interested in your thoughts on this. Basically, it's an arms race on 2 levels, to keep it simple. Number 1, it's a technology arms race for you to develop tech that's actually going to win in the marketplace in your segment. Number 2, then it's a marketing sales arms race to actually reach the world quicker than anyone else and dominate the sector. I'm interested in is that what you mean by speed?
That is what I mean by speed. And I think it's important to note, this is why this experience can be so crazy, because you are trying to find the space where you can deliver a beautiful, elegant product. Of course, none of us do that bug-free, but that's solid. But you're also just working against the clock. And that's a difficult thing to manage in the day-to-day. I believe firmly, just in little ways to celebrate accomplishment, and then you have to very, very quickly move on. And this is why, we've talked about it already a few times, but why focus is so important, because speed is so important, and someone will eat your lunch incredibly quickly, unless you are focused on a technology that solves a product where there aren't many, a technology that solves a problem where there aren't many competitors. Arguably, though, if you go to raise funds based on a market where there are no competitors, there might be a little bit of a question mark on, is this a problem we're solving if no one else is trying to do it? And that may or may not be the case. Depends on the market. So, I would say, when you're looking at markets and you're thinking about the type of product that you want to create, and this is specifically for technology companies, do you want to find a wide blue ocean? Do you want to try to create a new category and be the gorilla in the category? How big is this? Do you want the opportunity to be for it to be worth you spending your life on it, or some of your life on it? Or are you looking to be a best in breed tool that's maybe not necessarily the gorilla in the market, but a sort of very strategic offering that focuses on a very specific segment. So it matters the problem that you're solving and how the market is developed historically to try to solve that problem.
Yeah, it's like it can feel overwhelming, can't it? Really, in terms of what you're trying to do. You're going right, and also choice. The problem is you've got choice. Like, what market do I really focus on? And and then you've got data. Then you've got intuition and creativity as well. So this is the challenge, isn't it? Trying to map the qualitative as well as the quantitative data, and then add the beautiful mix of human creativity and intuition to that mix, served by that information.
It's a beautiful journey, and I'm reminded by a quote that I've said so many times. I feel like my team is probably sick of it, but it's I forget who exactly it's attributed to, but it is, in the mind of the beginner, the possibilities are endless, and in the mind of the expert, the possibilities are few.
That's exactly.
And it's a reminder, right? When we created my very first company, I had no idea what I was doing, and maybe some people might say I still have no idea, but you're still learning. But you're naive and you don't think that things aren't possible. You just go after it, and you're not thinking about all the reasons why something would fail. You're thinking about all the reasons why it could succeed. And I think it's important for many of us founders to, yes, rely on our experience and in some ways be very realistic, but we have to have the mental fortitude of being, in many cases, incredibly honest, or optimistic, and drinking the Kool-Aid and being like the chief believing officers, because you are just knocked down constantly for good reason. And so, taking that beginner's mind and pairing it with the expert is a difficult dance, but I think it's very important.
Oh yeah, and that's where I think beautiful naivety mixed with energy.
I like that.
So I totally agree. And so the other question I want to ask you, in the dark of night, where you're doubting your mission, who supports you? Who are your mentors, and where does that inspiration and support come from?
Thank you for this question. Well, I will say that when it gets dark, first I turtle. I completely turtle. I go inward, and I'm just like, how am I going to survive? And turtling can be that my friends and family don't hear from me for a little bit of time. And I'm just at the gym, just trying to get all the excess stress out. And then after I've turtled for a few days, then I sort of come up and or sometimes a few hours, it depends. I come up and I have conversations with my partner, who is in a similar industry, has similar experiences, and helps me process. And I talk to my co-founder, Jonathan, who is an incredible source of just stability. He's sort of, I feel like, has a very non-emotional, like even keel approach. He's ballast in my life, and we'll talk through things. And he comes from a place of non-judgment. And I feel like I can always be honest with him. And then I also will speak a little bit to my past co-founders, actually, having conversations with them, getting their thoughts and feedback. And usually I keep the circle small. If it's a very specific question, or that the dark night is a very specific subject, I might go to a subject expert where I'm like, I know this person, like maybe it's sales focused, like I'm having trouble with bringing this one piece across the finish line. I might talk to a good friend who I know is just an amazing saleswoman, and she can help give me ideas.
Yeah, it's everyone sees the shiny front end quite often, don't they? And they don't realise that that all of us are human. There's doubts and fears that are always creeping in, and moving forward takes a lot of courage and persistence and resilience. The thing I've loved about life for me is that in reflection, I've looked back and going, where do the biggest opportunities came from? And it came from the darkest moments.
Wow.
Because you don't learn from comfort, you learn from pain. So
I know it. Don't we know it?
So what's an accelerator incubator opportunity? Pain.
It's so true. It's so true.
So just to wrap it up here, Sonciary, What are some of the things you've learned along the way that you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers?
I would say of course, I only have my own experiences, but for those also type A, highly critical, highly passionate
Mm,
individuals out there, I would say be gentle on yourself.
yeah,
It is a long ride. It's a long road, a long ride. It's, we talk about it being a marathon versus a sprint. Like I at Promoboxx, there was a period for about 4-ish years where I didn't take a single vacation. I did not take a single day off. And I would say we're all committed, but we don't need to be martyrs. You need to take, it's important to take a little bit of time away from the business so you can reflect and restore and come back with new and exciting ideas. Get out, go for a hike, go for a walk, go to the gym. I mean, other experiences in life are always going to be tied back to the business you're creating because you just can't leave it. It's how your mind works. You're highly focused. So give yourself, spend time with family, like give yourself the ability to step away, and restore. You'll be better for yourself. You're better for your co-founders, for your team.
yeah. So I heard in that you're sort of saying that you need to give yourself permission to take some silent, quiet time for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say so. Being someone that didn't do that for a while and seeing the impact, and there are many like us,
Yeah.
I would say that's not the route to go.
So what's the future you think for Koala in terms of the vision you have in terms of the product as a software as a
Yeah,
service to help customer service success?
sure.
Where's big vision for you guys?
Yeah, we are developing our AI ML approach to the technology we're creating, and there's some natural language processing components of it as well. Our dream is that a team will be able to integrate essentially any data source, that we don't have to necessarily force workflow transformation, but wherever the work is happening today, they can bring that data into our platform. Our dream is to create a vibrant, amazing Boston-based company. We are primarily remote, but our nexus is in Boston. Create something that's beautiful for the ecosystem there and a bullhorn for the startup cause. Jonathan and I want to create something that matters, that lasts, that lasts a long time. And
Mm.
we're focusing on having an environment that promotes not only that startup grit and best speed, but also the balance of making sure that you're taking time for yourself and doing the things that you love, because we all have one life and it's important for us to know that we're multifaceted beings. We're not just workers. We're
We're not
a lot more than
machines.
that.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah, we're not
machines.
just machines. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, what is your, I suppose, sweet spot that you're identifying as your customer persona market segment? What is that sweet spot
Oh,
that you're aiming at?
yeah. Thank you. Thank you for this question. It's funny. We're a few years into our journey. I'll preface it. So we actually have expanded our buyer personas. We started in the customer success space, working with customer success leaders, primarily leaders that were managing teams of about 20 CSMs or more, several hundred employees at the company overall. And you're looking at, at least 10 to 15 million in ARR. And now we've expanded it to chief product officers, and also chief data officers that are looking to aggregate all of this qualitative information so that it's A, in one place, and B, helps to inform the customer experience to better that experience. And since we've expanded our persona, we've also expanded the customer maturity. We're now working with scaling organizations that are 1 to 2,000 employees strong, and they are 200 250 million in ARR.
Okay. So, in other words, you're moving more up into the enterprise space.
We are, yeah, we are. I will say that startups are near and dear to our heart. We are one. So anyone approaches me that's a smaller team or a CSM of one or CS team of one that's interested in these type of insights, please don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to know that we're building a product where it could help serve their needs as well. We want to support the ecosystem.
Fantastic. I love what you've been doing for the last 10, 15 years. It's been
Thank you.
quite a journey by the sounds of it. With courage to start taking an idea and actually acting on it. I think that's where the magic happens. Is
Mm.
magic in the motion, and hats off to you for doing such a fantastic job and continuing to. So I look forward to seeing the explosion expansion of Koala. How do people contact you?
Sure. Yes. Please don't hesitate to reach out. It's Sonciary, if you want to include in show notes, Sonciary at koala.io. I'm not on any social media except for LinkedIn. So you can just find me by typing in Sonciary. I'm the only Sonciary, so it's not hard to find me.
Okay.
Oh, and then also our website, it's koala.io, Quala.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Sonciary, for a fantastic conversation and your insights and wisdom. It's I always learn so much from these fireside chats without the fire. But
the fire's internal. It's the internal burning.
Yeah, well, I think it's cold enough to have a fire in Boston at the moment, isn't it, really?
It totally is.
Yeah. I can see you wearing a jacket. I'm wearing a T-shirt. So thank you very much for your time and your wisdom. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for spending some time with me and for the thoughtful and insightful questions.